Thank you, everyone. I didn't realize how dramatic this picture looks in black and white. I would have chosen a different one. Anyway, thank you all for being here. My name is Marwen, and I work at SDF as a software engineer. I've been primarily working with my team on the Stellar Disbursement Platform, which is the platform responsible for delivering bulk payments on the Stellar network. And some of you may be already familiar with the backstory on this, but basically, the initial version of the SDP was developed along with the UNHCR, which is the UN org that's responsible for basically for helping and assisting refugees. After doing that first version, we basically learned a lot about delivering bulk payments using the Stellar network. And so we worked on a second version, which is the one that I'm going to be talking about today. This version is open source, and yeah, we learned a lot through it, and basically that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So yeah, we're going to start by talking about bulk payments in general. Afterwards, we're going to talk more about the SDP, which is a more specific case. We'll talk about the TSS, which is the part of the SDP that's responsible for delivering transactions. And we're going to finish with a live demo that is going to be recorded, actually. Sorry about that. But yeah, no one is doing live demos, so I decided to go against it. So yeah, bulk payments. So basically, what are bulk payments? Bulk payments are a one-to-many payment, which is so you have one organization that's going to be delivering payments to end recipients, and that's quite different from like a peer-to-peer type of payment in a lot of ways, and we got to discover that a bit the hard way, basically. The good thing, though, is that the Stellar network really shines with bulk payments. So whatever you have, anything that is great with peer-to-peer is actually better when it comes to bulk payments. So if you have a cross-region type of payment, if it's peer-to-peer, it's just one country, it's not a big deal, you can figure it out. If it's end region that you're trying to disperse funds to, then that gets quite difficult, actually, to figure out all the intricacies of that. Fees-wise, also is the same thing. So basically, everything got slightly better when it's done differently between peer-to-peer and bulk payments. The other thing is really that also with Stellar, we get stuff like integrating compliance processes like KYC through anchors, for example, which is also one extra bonus. I wanted to talk more about start with the proven applications of bulk payments. So these are the ones that we basically worked on and where the SDP is currently being used for or in the process of being used for. The first section, and probably like one of the greatest ones, is the humanitarian aid portion. So that's the SDP is being used for distributing emergency funds to recipients in conflict or disaster zones. So like whether with UNHCR or with IRC. It's also been used for paying staff salaries in conflict zones, and that has been actually quite. It's quite a problem. In a lot of areas, payments take 30 to like 60 days to clear, basically, and the SDP is able to shorten that quite a bit. The other part of the proven applications is like seamless fast payments to freelancers and contractors. So like our partner Bigger are using the SDP for that. The second part is really the part where I think you would play a big role in it. This part is the emerging opportunities. So this is where we think the SDP can also work along with the humanitarian aid and the contractor payments portion. So like we have micropayments for content influencers and media platforms, B2B invoice settlements. Yesterday I was talking to someone, I think from Tiger Blocks, and he was mentioning how he was planning to use the SDP for dividend distribution. It's not something that we thought about, but it's also another use case. Yeah, So, so the SDP is basically our response to that issue. So the SDP, first of all, it's fully open source. It's available on GitHub. There is two repos. There is the backend and the front end repo. It's the tool that powers Stellar Aid Assist, which you probably are familiar with. Recently, we added multi-tenancy to the SDP. It's a recent addition, and it came from a need, basically from. It's interesting because it's a need from both bigger organizations, like the UN, where they have multiple sub-orgs, and they need to segregate funds between these sub-orgs. So like the UNHCR and UNDP, etc., and they wanted to have one deployable instance that is used for all of these sub-orgs. The other side of that equation is really smaller organizations that don't want to host the SDP themselves. And so in that case, we need to we go through SDP hosts who are going to be in charge of hosting the SDP for them. And for the host as well, it doesn't work as well to be to scale it by provisioning multiple instances of the SDP. So multi-tenancy played a role in that. The other part is, of course, wallet creation. That's a very big part. That's one of the big appeals of using the SDP. So we do basically recipient onboarding happens on demand. What that means is the recipients that are going to be dispersing funds to, they don't need to have already a wallet installed on their phone. They don't need to be really familiar with crypto in general. They're just going to receive a link that's going to help them, that's going to guide them through the process of basically setting up a wallet that's going to be created on the fly, as well as receiving their funds. And that's one of the big appeals of this. There's other stuff like analytics, account control, but yeah. We're going to start by talking about the flow of funds, which hopefully will make things a little bit clearer about how the SDP work from like a black box type of perspective. So as you see on the left side over there, the first step is really the organization is going to fund their distribution account. And the distribution account is, it can be either custodial or non-custodial. So, and the way they fund it, they're either going to be sending fiat directly converted to crypto and send it directly to the distribution account. But either way, one of the things we don't recommend is like keeping funds on the distribution account for a long time. It's not really meant for that. Distribution account is meant to be used, you put funds in it and then you disperse them basically. This here is this is the screen that shows the distribution account configuration in the SDP. In this case, this is a Stellar native like distribution account. You can see the current balances of it as well as the current trust lines. You can edit this, add and remove trust lines, etc. Distribution accounts can also be like custodial or like happen through, for example, Circle, in which case you're going to be here configuring your API key and your wallet ID. Yeah, so the second part, once your distribution account is funded, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be uploading payment instructions and triggering a disbursement. So these payment instructions, currently it's a CSV file, which is kind of, because we built the SDP based on an actual need, that was the starting point for us. And then we're working on adding more and more features to cover the remaining use cases, basically. The first use case is uploading a CSV with the instructions. So basically how much you're going to disperse, who you're going to disperse into, and what's the amount, and how to verify that user. Once we do that, afterwards we trigger the disbursement. And this is what this demo, if it works, is going to show. Yeah. So here you see this is the new disbursement screen. You start by selecting a country that you're going to be dispersing to, a wallet. In this case, we're using Vibrant Assist. The asset, USDC, and verification is for each receiver, how are they going to verify that they're actually who they are? So like sort of KYC. Last step here, you're going to be uploading a CSV with the instructions. And then once you're done, you're going to get to review everything to see how much balance is left. I'm sending myself $120 here, a lot of money. And yeah, you confirm the disbursement. And that's the and then your disbursement is created basically. And here you can see this is the screen that shows your disbursement as well as how many receivers and some stats. So once that's done, the next step is the receiver registration and the wallet onboarding, basically. So here you have two paths. In the first path, you're going to be your first path, your receiver is not registered. So in that case, your SDP cannot associate the ID that you uploaded, so the phone number or email. It can't associate it with an actual wallet ID. And so when we can do that, basically what we're going to do is we're going to send that receiver. In this, it says SMS, but now the SDP also supports email, and it's extensible, so you can add more. And basically, they're going to receive that SMS, and then they're going to be able to onboard onto the wallet. And then number 5 over there, basically, once they're onboarded, the wallet is going to communicate back into the SDP and tell them, hey, this is the address of this receiver. And then we'll be able to go to step 7 there, which is disperse the funds. So I think, yeah. So this next one here shows how that flow goes. So here I received an SMS. Tell me, hey, you received some funds. You can go ahead and claim them. So here I'm going to go through this basically KYC process. I'm going to say, I'm going to confirm my phone number to say the one that I received the funds on. And then afterwards, you're going to get like an OTP, which is a standard thing for verifying that. And then that's the PIN, which is the verification that was uploaded by the organization that was dispersing the funds to you. Once that's done, your information basically has been sent to the SDP at this point. And then you're going to be soon receiving your funds. In this case, it's $120, but it's also converted to the Ukrainian hryvnia, I think. And yeah. So the last part is really after that you can monitor your disbursement. So you can log into the dashboard and then check out for every receiver. Did they receive their funds or not? Did they actually register their wallet or not? You can resend registration, SMS or emails, all of those things. So next, let's talk a little bit about the SDP architecture. I'm going to start from the right side and work my way to the end, basically. But the right side, the tenant admin, is the part that we added recently with the introduction of multi-tenancy to the SDP. And that part is the part that you're going to be interacting with first when you set up the platform. But actually, before that, maybe I should say that you can see the boundary of the service, which the service is actually, there is 4 services in this platform. So you have the backend, the SDP backend, which is like the catch-all backend service. You have the anchor platform, and there are, like the anchor platform is available, and there's actually quite a few talks about it from Jake. I don't know if he's here, but yeah, I recommend watching that if you want more info about the anchor platform. The dashboard UI and the TSS, which is the transaction submission service. And so, like I said, the first part of the backend is the tenant admin, and that's how you're going to be provisioning your tenant, configuring the tenant, and going through that onboarding process of creating a new one. Afterwards, you have the dashboard API, which is going to be the API that powers the UI overall. You have users, authentication, authorization. The disbursement engine basically works depending on the distribution account that you have configured. So if you have Circle distribution account, for example, configured, then payments are just going to go directly to Circle. If you have a Stellar distribution account configured, then it's going to go through the TSS and then to the Stellar network. The last part over there is the receiver wallet registration, which basically happens through the Anchor platform and goes through the SEP 10 and primarily SEP 24 process. The TSS itself handles 2 main things. You have transaction signing, and which, as its name says, it just signs transactions. And the second part is the transaction submitter engine, which is just responsible for submitting transactions to the Stellar network. So this is the detailed architecture. It's not really that detailed, but I just wanted to outline the extensibility part of the SDP. So we created the SDP in a way that is extensible, just so that we believe that builders can solve problems better in their own environment. So we can't cover all the use cases possible, but we made sure that everything we build is you'll be able to build on top of it, basically. The blue layer over there, the dark blue layer, is all the abstraction layer that we built, and then we have actual implementations for each of these. So I'm not going to go through each one of these, but basically we have the signature client, which has supports like DB Vault or an M signature client. We also are thinking about introducing other things, like, for example, Defense or HashiCorp Vault. So like HashiCorp Vault is one of the things that we've been working on, which is going to be a plugin that lives in Vault. And basically, it allows you to sign transactions behind Vault's barrier. So basically, your private key never leaves Vault, and you sign transactions within Vault. And that's in case you want to keep custody of your own key, and you don't want to use like third-party services, and you can deploy your own Vault. For Submitter Engine, it currently supports Horizon. You can configure to use your own Horizon, just so that I don't get in trouble with Molly. But you can also, we're also working on Stellar RPC client. Yeah, and there is, basically everything else is in that same vein in here. The one thing to notice is building these abstractions really comes at a price. And the price for that is configuration. So basically, we do have to we have a lot of configurations in place in order to choose for each one of these abstractions which one of them you're going to choose. So for example, for distribution account, is it going to be a Stellar account or a Circle account? And these configurations, they're tiered, so there's like 3 tiers of configurations with increasing granularity, basically. But you have a configuration layer that is at the env level, so for your whole SDP deployment. You have a configuration layer that is at the tenant layer. So basically, when you create a new tenant, and that's what distribution account is, for example. So when you create a new tenant, it's either going to be a Stellar or a Circle account. You cannot really switch in between. And then the last type is there is an org level configuration, and that part is the org itself can like control it. Like, do I want to resend the invitation after a few days if the receivers don't answer, that type of things. Yeah, and the last part, so we started with bulk payments, SDP, and now we're diving into the TSS, which is responsible for submitting transactions. So before that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the constraints of the Stellar network. So basically, where, like, just the reality of where we're operating and why, which explains why we did the choices that we did. So here you see a lot of like a journalistic lingo of someone that tries not to get sued, like varies based on network load and accept smart contract. But it's just so that I don't get in trouble with the core team primarily. But yeah, the Stellar ledger closes approximately every 5 seconds. You have about 1,000 operations per ledger. Transactions have a bundle of between 1 and 100 operations, except smart contract. Transactions are atomic, so if you have 1 operations in the transaction that fails, all of them fail. The last part is pretty important too. It's the basically each account is associated with a sequence number, and that tracks the order of transactions from that account. And basically, the sequence number for each new transaction, it increments with each accepted transaction. And accepted does not mean successful. It's either succeeds or fails. For example, if you don't have enough funds, then the transaction fails, but it's still going to increment your sequence number. And the sequence number is important for a couple of reasons, mainly because, I mean, it is basically the primary tool that's used for preventing double spending, I guess. The other thing here is that the important part is the fact that transactions are atomic, because when you think about doing bulk transactions, the first thing you're going to think about is, well, I'm just going to put 100 payments in one transactions and I'm going to submit everything. Now the problem with that is that if one of those payments fail, all of your payments are going to fail, and it's really not. I think it's not recommended to put operations in your transactions that don't really relate to each other. So if you're doing bulk payment, all of the payments are not really related, other than the fact that they have the same source account. So that solution already gets eliminated just from that fact. Yeah. So the next way that you're going to think about, or that we thought about doing it, it's to basically, for each payment you're going to prepare, like you're going to submit 4 payments. What you're going to do is you're going to prepare your sequence number, and this is all to get around the whole sequence number part. You're going to prepare a sequence number, you're going to increase it for each of them, and then you're going to submit and hope for the best. And the best usually never happens. So what will happen here is basically, of course, number 4 arrives first, and then you have to kind of, you get like TX, bad sec, you're going to have to manage that, retry again. Not the best case to, not the best way to build an application around that. The second way you'd think about is maybe like you can put in a bit of a wait between payments. So you basically are going to submit the first payment, wait a little bit, submit the second one, wait a little bit. I mean, in that case, how much are you going to wait, really? That's not really viable, too. The other way is you're just going to do it sequentially. So you're going to wait for a payment to clear, increase the sequence number, wait for the second one to clear. Of course, this is also going to be quite slow. So like about, 0.2 TPS if we said that the ledger closure is between like 5-6 seconds. So the good thing is that, and as someone that builds on Stellar, I found that there is usually a good answer. The answer is not always obvious to find, but it's usually there, and it's usually well thought of. So in this case, the answer is channel accounts. And they're the way in Stellar to basically be able to disperse a lot of transactions at the same time. And so from your distribution account, you're going to be creating a number of channel accounts. So in this case, we created 4 channel accounts. Each of them is going to have their own sequence number, so that's not going to be a problem in that regard. And then basically, you're just going to be dispatching payments, one payment from each channel account at a time. This is what gave us the best in terms of performance when it comes to working on this. Of course, this is also, there comes like a lot of caveats here. So the TPS is here it says it's the number of channel accounts divided by the average ledger closure time, but basically the theoretical limit is about 200 TPS on the Stellar network, and theoretically also you're not going to be able to saturate the network. So you take this with a grain of salt, and there is a limit, which means that there is a limit to how many channel accounts you can create. It's like you can just go create 10,000 channel accounts and just try to get an unlimited number of payments out. The other thing with this is, and what the TSS does is, when you start the TSS, you're going to choose how many channel accounts you want to create. Again, it's one of those things that is configurable. And then based on that number of channel accounts, what the TSS is going to do, it's going to create them, it's going to save them, and then it's going to manage payments going through these channel accounts. Because when you think about it, even with this, you still have to manage the sequence number. So for each channel account, it will have to be basically locked until it manages to get the payment accepted by the network. And so that part is all implemented in the TSS, and that's one of the things you can use, basically. So yeah, this is the this is the part where I guess I ask you to please contribute to the SDP. I think it's a great project. I think it's one of those contributions that will basically pay dividends. It's already helping a lot of people, and the more people build on top of it, the more people contribute to it. I think the better it gets. Yeah, afterwards, I'm just going to, so this is the demo. The demo basically, I guess maybe, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, okay. The demo basically, I just wanted to say what it is. The demo just shows for developers primarily how easy it is to set up the platform. So the platform has a few services. It's a little bit complex, but we built quite a bit of tooling already around the fact to help users basically start everything up quickly. It's slightly edited, not a lot, as you may be able to see. But the first thing is we have a script that does we call it like a make amp script, which basically just creates the distribution account for you and creates the SEP10 accounts for you. So I didn't cut this part. This is gonna succeed, but it's going to fail to add the USDC funds in there. But it doesn't matter. We can just go with XLM. And so it created the N file, which is going to be used by the SDP. The next step is going to be to run one other script, which is main.sh, which is just going to basically create all the containers that you're going to need, and it's going to it's going to also provision a few tenants for you, so that you can start using the SDP immediately. It's going to create the tenants. It's going to create the users. And this is the part that is actually edited. It takes a little bit longer than that on the hotel internet. It took like 5 minutes, I think, or maybe 10. This part here is the last part. What it's doing now is it finished bringing up all the containers, and now it's going to be provisioning the missing tenants. So it's going to create like 3 tenants, I think. So 3 separate orgs. And yeah, these are basically API calls. For each org, it's going to create its own distribution account. And yeah, I recorded it, so I'm sure it works. But now I'm having doubts about it because it's hanging in there for a little too long. But yeah, there we go. So now the tenants are created. I think one of them is created. There's going to be 2 more that will get created. And once they're done, the script also is going to give you a user, like the URLs for each of these tenants, as well as like a login and password to start using them. Yeah, I didn't cut this part out where I'm struggling to click on a link. And yeah, once that's done, you can just go ahead and start like a login to the SDP and start dispersing funds. So here I'm logged in, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new disbursement. Same thing as you saw earlier. The accounts, when they get created, they start with a balance that is configurable as well. So each tenant that gets created starts currently with 5 XLM. That's like the default, but that's something that you can configure. You have also the invite that's going to come out that can be changed. So like the text that's going to come out. And here, basically, I'm just going to validate this disbursement. The one thing is when you're running this locally, originally, you're not going to be able to use like Vibrant, for example. You're just going to be able to use like the demo wallet, mainly because the process of using a wallet requires allow listing that wallet with the SDP, basically. So here I'm using the demo wallet. This shows kind of the process that a wallet that has to support the SDP has to go through. This is a very helpful tool for anyone that is building a wallet that supports the SDP. So all you need here is really the home domain, which is the domain on which the Stellar TOML is hosted. And once you have that, you can initiate the SEP24 flow, which is going to go through, and the demo wallet here is going to show you all the calls that are needed in order to do that. And once that's done, yeah, you just go through the process that we saw earlier of claiming your funds. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thank you.